Our Main Street virtual home show continues. I'm Devin O'Day, and this segment talks about turning your property into an event venue. Haven't you thought about that? Well, we've got all this beautiful property. Let's create a venue. Well, there's a lot that goes into it. We are talking with Sage Creek Farm. Owner, operator Andrea and Brandon Sandefur found an overgrown piece of property with a tiny, dilapidated house toward the back. Their first purchase for Andrea and Brandon was a tractor. As they started clearing, they found an old trailer filled with hornets' nests, an old barn with a roof that would weather way too many storms, but most of all, they found a dream. Andrea put her vision into reality as the land cleared into rolling green and the gentle sound of Sage Creek beckoned at the back of the property, beginning at the tiny house which they repaired and renovated and lived in as they built the main house at the front of the property. It was the way everyone reacted to the place that kept them moving forward. A beautiful event barn made way for an open-air pavilion, an event deck on Sage Creek, a catering cabin, an old shed turned groom's cigar and bourbon hangout. Of course, they needed more bathrooms, so a trip to a reuse and reclamation charity for some buildings at a bargain, some paint, some hard work, and they were transformed. Oh, and that little dilapidated house is now a gorgeous bridal suite with 2 bedrooms, living, dining, full kitchen, laundry, and a covered deck for a relaxing glass of wine as you get ready to face that big day. Okay, Andrea, I wanted to ask, before, if someone had a beautiful piece of property, I wish I had a nickel for every friend that I said had told me, we're going to turn this into a venue.
Yes.
There are a lot of things that people don't realize, and one of the first things is knowing you and knowing that there are a lot of, depending upon where you live, there are a lot of legalities that you have to follow before you ever start building. So
right.
What are some things that just kind of wherever you live that this would work for?
Right. I mean, I think that you really have to check your, work with the county, understand what their guidelines are, because there are stipulations depending on what county that you work in or that you you live in or the venue is in. I think that the other piece of it is that you don't really realize from an insurance liability perspective, from a contractual perspective, when you're working with any potential guest clients or patrons, what some of the considerations that you have to take into place. And so early on, we actually worked with 2 different lawyers to make sure that we were doing things right by the county and the state. And then we also worked with a separate attorney who really worked with us to understand, do we have the right contractual language? Are we fair? We're a small little boutique. We want to be known as a small little boutique venue. And we wanted to be fair in our contract, very amenable, but yet, again, protecting both the clients and ourselves. So there's a lot that goes into that you just don't realize. And then it's everything else, right? It's making sure that the grounds look great every single day. You and I talked about it, Devin. I mean, I'm a perfectionist, so I wanted this to be the perfect place for the perfect day for anyone. And so to make it perfect, it takes a lot of work. So there's a lot of sweat equity and money that goes into that. And I think also you mentioned about, the building of the road. One of the things that we wanted to do was to ensure that we were, making sure that we have great access for all of our patrons onto the property. And yet also being very considerate of your neighbors. And that's a big thing. We made sure that we were working with our neighbors. They understood what we were doing, that everyone really had a buy-in and understood our vision. And we wanted to make sure that our neighbors were also aligned, were comfortable, and were in support of it.
And when it comes to things like accessibility, we mentioned handicap access and things like that. Those are some things that you have to make sure that you have.
Exactly.
As you build out.
Exactly, and you do need to take those into considerations. And we work with every client to ensure that, depending on who their patrons are, we want to make sure that we're providing them with the best support that we can for all of the patrons that they have. It's interesting, it's not only handicap, but we're also working with people that have severe allergies, like peanut allergies. So we're making sure that the entire facility is safe and free of nuts because it's a severe peanut allergy. You work with things like that. I mean, so again, it's all those things that, you know, maybe early on when you think, oh, hey, I have property and I have a barn and I'm just going to, you know, I'm going to make it into an event venue. There are so many small details that as you're migrating through it, that you come to realize this is involved. It really is. And you cannot take it lightly. Everything is very important, and everything you have to have every, you know, T crossed and I's dotted when you're going through the process.
When it comes to having a good attorney, a good insurance person,
Yes.
When it comes to buying things, you can really like lose your mind at first, you know, trying to find just the right, you know, the fittings, you know, the right chairs, you know, I know to find the many chairs that match and things like that. And I know what a perfectionist that you are.
Right.
And they're all so pretty. What is something that you could suggest to people if they were trying to do things maybe on a budget? Because I also know that you're very frugal with what you pick.
It is. I mean, we did, you know, it's funny, you look on Marketplace, you look on eBay, and there's also a really great Facebook site, which is the Venue Association. And it's a great forum site to really, for new venue owners to actually go there. It's wonderful. There are some, you name it, the question's been asked. And it's just a great place to go, just because there are really interesting questions that come up along the way. And you're able to pull from people around the entire United States who are more than willing and happy to help out their fellow venue owners.
Oh, that's good to know. That's good to know. So if people want to find you on the web, they would go to?
www.sagecreekfarmtn.com. Allow really for a bride, a groom, a church service, anyone to really have the ability to come out, and then we have the pavilion.
Oh my goodness, look how beautiful that is. So you've got the indoor barn. It's this beautiful sweeping ceiling, still rustic, but you can make it as formal as you want to make it. Then you come outside and this beautiful pavilion out here. Where did you find your church pews?
So it's been a little mixture of both. We had there was one venue out of the Virginia area, and they were closing down, and we were able to purvey those from her. And just recently, we were able to get actual church pews from a real church, and those are in the barn getting finished right now as we speak, and they'll be ready for our wedding that we have on the 10th.
Beautiful. Now, and every space is being used. Now, if this were an actual working barn, there might be outside stalls, but instead of that, you've got these beautiful outside areas. So when you open up the barn from the inside, you've got this beautiful overflow area. So you can have some pretty big weddings.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and we're making some accommodations too for the more kind of colder months. So we're going to be actually putting up, we're curtaining each of the sides so that they can still keep the doors open, but yet have the ability to feel still like they're out and have that outdoor feel to it.
Oh, that's just beautiful. And you are on the water, so for people want to know, there is water flowing.
Yes, we are on a creek, hence Sage Creek. Right.
And so you can hear the water as you're outside.
Exactly.
That's gorgeous. And I mean, where did you find all the appointments? I mean, you've got your beautiful barns that you've got here. You've got plenty of places for storage and things like that. Whenever you started building this, it's kind of like a feed bag. You start one thing and you go, oh, we got to build this, and now we got to build a road. And
well, exactly. It's really funny when you say, you know, a feed bag. We weren't planning on a pavilion. The only reason that a pavilion got built was because when they ordered our trusses for our main barn, they sent the wrong trusses. So we were doing this, we were building this really in the dead of winter, and we were up to our eyeballs in mud. And the truss company said, I don't know if we can get these out until springtime, until this dries up. And I said, well, wait a second. What else could we use these for? I said, why don't we build a pavilion? So my husband and I said, let's do it. Let's build a pavilion. But you're right. It went from, I think, even early on when you saw the early makings of this, there were no roads, there wasn't any concrete, there really wasn't the really solid infrastructure. And I think now we've gotten to a really good place where I think it presents itself well and is very accommodating for the guests and the patrons that come here.
It's just lovely. So quiet out here. Plenty of parking, plenty of places to social distance, and yet still celebrate your day.
Exactly.
Whenever you did this this wonderful idea, did you have a lot of cancellations when it came to COVID?
We did. And we really just started, we've really only been actively really presenting Sage Creek Farm for about a year. So we were fortunate enough that we didn't have a lot of cancellations or having to change the dates. We did have some change the dates. But overarchingly, most of our bookings are for next year, but we have a lot still for the rest of this year. But in most cases, I think that all of the events that we're having, they're all very conscious about social distancing and all of the guidelines that are either from the county, state, all of our governmental guidelines. So they've been great at really working with us to ensure that everyone is safe here when they come.
Okay, this is gorgeous. This is, now we mentioned that we were on the water. And you're having a ceremony down here, so if you don't want to be inside and you really want to have open air,
very much so,
you can come down here and take a look right along the creek. Isn't this beautiful? Oh my heavens, Andrea, what a gorgeous sight. And as you turn around and look up this direction, this is fantastic.
Yeah. I think this was one of our favorite places, and our good friend Tim Baumgartner, who's a musician, has been so kind enough in his free time, which he has very little. We had a vision to build a deck down here, and him and his son built, I think that Armageddon could hit and this deck will still be standing.
It's really strong.
But it's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful site for, wedding ceremony, pictures. We've done a ton of pictures down here. And we just wanted to, this is such a special place. We wanted to be able to share it and have people appreciate it as much as we did when we built it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I just have to look at this water one more time. As you look at a piece of property, don't just think weddings. Sage Creek's website will really get you excited with ideas. Senior pictures, album shoots, family portraits, corporate events, rustic barbecues to upscale horse and buggy arrivals, celebrations of life, and even open-air church. Sage Creek's Andrea Sandefur is a visionary, creating just the right atmosphere for your perfect day. Find them online at sagecreekfarmtn.com or just give them a call at 615-390-4924.